My name's Jon Parker, and I'm the Managing Director and founder of Flyby Technology. And we're a drone pilot training company based in the UK, but a lot of our training takes place overseas as well. The training that we provide is for pilots that wish to get their permission for commercial operation, and that means they can operate for hire and reward as drone pilots in the UK airspace. And the permission is given by the Civil Aviation Authority. Without that, you can't operate for hire and reward in the UK as a pilot. I joined the Royal Air Force in 1985, and I was a fighter pilot in the Air Force, but as one of my roles, I was a qualified weapons instructor, and I was also a senior member of the Central Flying School, which is the oldest flying school in the world. And I was asked to write papers before drones became called drones even. They were just UAVs and unmanned air vehicles. And I was asked to write papers on how they would impact warfare and how the Royal Air Force was going to manage either countering their use or using them themselves. And of course you can imagine when the Royal Air Force had been manned aviation ever since 1918, it was a big departure. And so it needed people to understand it at the very beginning. And so I've been involved with drones since 1995, before they were even called drones. Well, I wouldn't say that the training that we deliver is excessive. To us, it's the natural level. There's only one opportunity to be trained properly, and that's at the very beginning. So if you're serious about wanting to be a professional pilot, then you need to be serious about the training that you undertake. And so people come to us that are early adopters. They're guys that want, and ladies that want to be at the forefront of a new industry. There's no point joining an industry at the back end, and there's no point being dragged along by it. The people that we attract are pilots that want to be at the forefront of incorporating new technologies, new techniques. And as we've seen from the problems that they had at Gatwick, we have to manage our operations so they don't impact on manned aviation. Because although drones are the future, we do have to have manned aviation on side. And if we can have those credentials and operate in a professional manner, then we'll be accepted by the manned aviation community. And we train in exactly the same way that manned aviation trains, and to the same rigorous standards. So why would you want to be trained to anything less than that when you have the opportunity to be trained properly the first time? Well, if a pilot is coming to us to get the very best training, then they're going to have the best customer experience from every aspect of when they talk to us from the very first time, to how they create the operations manual, to how they're brought into our training, how they're supported afterwards. To do that, we need very good administrative processes. So we're 9001 accredited through our partner, PilotWise, who look after some of the administration for us and also some of the courseware management. So if you haven't got the very best and industry leading courseware and documentation, how can you expect to operate to the best industry standards? And so we have to give that quality feel at every single touch point. Every time a prospective pilot talks to us in the beginning to somebody who's been in our system and is a flyby qualified pilot 3 years down the tracks, the experience has to be exactly the same every single time, with familiar voices, friendly atmosphere. And because some of our credentials are quite elaborate and well gained, that can be a little bit intimidating. So at the same time, we have to have that friendliness and that approachability. And that is it's not a challenge, because that's the way our company is built. That's our DNA. We're a very friendly company. And so if we can't support our pilots, they can't do well. And so we understand the atmosphere has to be right so that they feel comfortable. And if they're comfortable, they're confident. If they fly confidently, they'll do well. They'll be asked back by their customers. The whole thing is a single wrapper. There's no difference between the quality of our training and the quality of the letters we send and the emails we send. It all has to be done on time to the highest standard, because the minimum standard is perfect. We never get there, of course, but if we're not trying, we've got no chance. If you're going to be spending money on pilot training, you have to have the confidence in the people that you're parting that money to. If we're not reliable, we won't have repeat custom. Everything's to do with word of mouth in this business. And we get a lot of referrals from one client to another. Where did you do your training? Oh, you need to do it with Flyby Technology because they're brilliant. But why are we brilliant? We have to ask ourselves that question every single day. We can only be as good as the last time we spoke to a customer, the last time we delivered training. We're only as good as the last event. And so if we don't have that event quality right at the very start, we'll diminish in our market share, and we can't do that. We're here to help the industry, and we're here to make the industry better, and we're here to support the regulator in making aviation safe for both manned aviation and for drone pilots. But at the same time, this is the start of an amazing industry, and it needs serious players in it. And if we have the wrong values at the start of that, then everything starts to unravel. And that's not what we expect from an industry like this. So the UK is at the forefront of all of this technology. We've got the most permissive set of rules with a very good regulator. And so we have to support them. The only way we can do that is to give a very professional, polished performance every time we do any sort of training. It has to be at the very top end. And that's what people are paying for. And in terms of values, we have the highest of integrity. We make sure that nobody leaves our course underconfident or without the skills or not deserving of the award of the permission for commercial operation. There is a standard to meet, and we're the guardians of that. But at the same time, we've got the very best instructors. All of our instructors are ex-military fighter pilots or combat helicopter pilots or CAA examiners. But more importantly, they're all trained instructors. I think we're the only company where every single instructor is a trained instructor of pilots. And so they empathise with the student. They've all been there before. They know how difficult this is. But at the same time, if you get good training from the right people in the right way, at the right pace, with the right sympathy and the right empathy, everything is achievable. And look at the standard that we produce. If you see some of the products from our former students now and some of the success stories that we have in all of the industries that are now using drones, you'll see why people come to us. And those values are the reason that they keep coming back. There are a number of ways that we maintain the quality of the products that we deliver. And there are a number of areas that we have to deliver that product in. There's the regulatory quality of the paperwork and the documents that we have to generate. And there is the instructor training, so that the instructors are always aware of a standardization. Now, when we talk about standardization, we have a unit within the company. It's called the standards unit, and they deploy to any of the courses and the course locations, and they don't tell the instructors that they're coming. And some students find it really quite amusing that the instructor's on the receiving end just like they are, and the instructor will have to every 6 months have a standards check with our head of standards or some of his deputies, and they can drop in at any time. I get standards checked more than anybody else because I don't train as much as the rest, so I'm always on the receiving end. But it's the only way that we can keep the standard high. And so an instructor will have to deliver both a flight skills test and an element of the training, whether it's a package that will discuss disorientation or emergencies or how to fly some of the test maneuvers or how to fly with degraded modes. And he doesn't know what's coming. He'll just be asked to deliver that package, and he'll also have to teach that instructor who will be making typical student errors, and he'll have to teach and talk that student into an improved performance. Now that's the flying bit. There's also the admin bit. And if we have a new piece of courseware or some new regulation, we will write all of that out and we'll have it then red team reviewed by an independent assessor, and they will make sure that it matches what the regulator is expecting, and then we'll test it. And we'll have other instructors sit in as students, and they'll go through that training to make sure that it's watertight, it's sensible, and it can be delivered in a way that can be readily understood and assimilated by the students. And if we didn't do it that way, then it would be just like making courseware in your garage. It's a professional outfit doing professional things for professional people. And so the standard has to be second to none. You have a choice of a number of different training organisations in the UK. We have the proven track record of delivering amazing training to amazing pilots. We're looking for the pilots who want to adopt our training because it's at the pinnacle of drone flying in the UK. We are looking for people to adopt our procedures because they're well thought through and they're devised by pilots for pilots, and we understand this stuff. A lot of people might criticise some of our techniques and some of our procedures as being long-winded and cumbersome, and oh, you don't want to do that, you might as well just strip that out of your operations manual. But these elements that we've brought together protect the pilot. They protect your operation so that when you're operating, you're safe, you're confident, and you know that there's a lot of thought been taken and put into those procedures that you can then rely on. When it gets difficult, the only thing that you've got to rely on is your training and the procedures that have been written for you. And there will be moments where things get a little out of control and you have to get that control back again. And you can't do that if you haven't been trained properly. If you come to Flyby Technology, then that's a given. You will be trained properly. You have a choice. You can choose to have cheap training or you can have the right training. And I know which one I'd go for. So why do I get out of bed in the morning? And why do I come to Flyby to do my work? Okay. I believe that this is a fantastic industry and the UK is at the forefront of it, and our pilots that are trained in the UK will eventually be world leaders in this amazing new opportunity. And the way we train is that you've always got to be better tomorrow than you were today. And here's another thing that we teach, which is a little unusual perhaps. We don't learn from our mistakes. Everybody tells you to learn from your mistakes, but that's natural, that's normal, that is automatic. What we teach you to do and teach you how to do is to learn from your successes. At the end of every day on our flying sites, the instructor will say, what went well? Why did it go well? And how do we do more of that? And that's how you're better tomorrow than you were today. That's why I get up, so that tomorrow this training is better than it was today. Everything's a piece of continuous improvement. The instructors are better tomorrow than they were today, and they were pretty good to start with.